till the lights go down, 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 till the lights go down, down, down. I've been feeling alright, I've been taking.
Yo, how's it going, guys? Crypto Vibes here, also known as Krypto. Bringing you guys another video, and today I am back bringing you guys the Krash Season 2 Week 1 as we are taking on Orosco. Now, if you guys have not already, be sure to check out mine and Bash's draft recap video. We went ahead and did that basically together, where we both broke down our teams and why kind of we drafted everything on our roster. Of course, we both probably got sniped, probably some of the most in the draft out of everybody. I mean, I'm sure everybody got sniped a lot, but we definitely did. So overall, though, I really enjoyed the look of my team, and I thought I built a pretty good Week 1 team. So I'll go ahead and get into that here in a little bit. But our opponent for Week 1 is going to be Orosco. I believe one of Jimmy's friends, and he did end up getting accepted through applications. And yeah, he has the team right here. You can see the two bottom bars right here. My team is these two bars right here. I'll go ahead and go over his team. He has the potential to bring Z Garchomp, Mega Glade, Z Weavile, Klefki, Nihilego, Entei, Jolteon, Virizion, Cofagrigus, Slowking, and Miltank. Whereas on my side we have the Z Landorus, Therian, Megalopony, Greninja, Z Kartana, Slowbro, Amoonguss, Gardevoir, Arcanine, Rhyperior, Golbat, and the Pangoro. So if you look at this matchup immediately, I noticed something that just right from the beginning I was like, okay, this man has absolutely no ground immunities, so this is going to be Landorus plus Rhyperior spam to the finest. He has to bring literally Virizion if he wants to resist, and something else I kind of do expect is like a Magnerise Klefki set. It just doesn't let things like Scarflander spam Earthquake, or just Rhyperior in general won't be able to hit it too well if I can't hit it with Earthquake. So I definitely expect that to kind of be a couple ways to help check the ground spam, because otherwise it kind of just runs through them with proper hazards plus wall breakers and whatnot. So that is something I'm going to try to abuse this game, is my ground spam for sure. Also, another thing I noticed is Virizion is in most likely ways going to come to this game, as it doesn't really have a good offensive matchup. Things like Golbat and my Amoonguss can definitely take it on very well, with things like Arcanine as well. But it's being his only ground resist, I feel like he'd want to use it as a pivot for Landorus Therian, so some kind of form with that, potentially having like Hidden Power Ice, then maybe just fighting grass coverage. It could definitely be a couple options for it. That would make a lot of sense. Things like the Weavile, I'm pretty positive should come to this game, because I have no switch-ins to that thing aside from Arcanine. Otherwise I have to pivot into that thing accordingly, and it's very tough. Also, it gives him Ice Shard pressure to help with my Landorus Therian, which otherwise would be a very big threat to him, to like revenge and everything. He has not very good options to help revenge it, and not very good switch-ins to it. So that is definitely something I expect to see 100% is the Weavile. I expect to see the Cofagrigus. I have a really big feeling that that thing should come to help be his main Megalopony response. Although I'm not bringing Megalopony. Spoilers, as you can pretty much see up here, though. I feel like between that and Slowking, I don't think it's the best option overall. And honestly, I had like 7 or 8 mons I wanted to bring to this game, so and that was one of them. But overall, I decided to go with the 6 you see at the top. And yeah, that's kind of some of my thoughts here. I think Nihilego is a pretty big threat if it's packing the Grass Knot, especially because that's able to hit everything on my team. Even my Rhyperior, which you've seen I'm bringing, but that is actually going to be my main response to Nihilego. You'll see here in a second. Something along the lines of Entei I don't think is actually a big threat against me at all, because I have the double water with Greninja and Slowbro. Also, I have the double ground with Landorus plus Rhyperior, and him seeing that the ground spam is so good against him, I doubt that he'd want to bring that. And I'm also bringing both my water types, so I'm not really too worried about the Entei. You'll see here in a little bit. Something like the Klefki is definitely annoying, as it could hazard stack me or set up screens and whatnot. Also have to be aware of different like statuses between Thunder Wave and Toxic, of course. So that's definitely a possibility. And then he's also got the things like the Jolteon, which is just very fast, can be annoying for my team. It outspeeds everything aside from Megalopony. So that is definitely a little annoying for the offensive pressure-wise. He is pretty much in a position where he needs to run Hidden Power Ice or Hidden Power Grass, though, if he wants to hit my Landorus or Rhyperior harder. Then otherwise probably just electric coverage and Shadow Ball, I would say. This game, he has really no reason at all to run Volt Absorb. So if I were to bring Gardevoir and I brought Trace, there's a possibility I could think I'm tracing his Volt Absorb, but there is absolutely no reason he should bring Volt Absorb when my team has no electric types, and I don't really have anything that would want to run electric coverage this game aside from maybe Arcanine, which I am not, spoilers. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on his team. I'm going to go ahead and just hop into my team right here, as we're going to lead it off with Choice Scarf Landorus, Therian, rocking the Earthquake, U-Turn, Knockoff, and Defog. So we are Adamant Nature, running enough speed for, I believe, max speed Jolteon, in case he decides just to go max speed. I'm maybe thinking that I would expect him to creep and him get away with like a faster speed than I think he might run, if that makes any sense. But yeah, this is basically just outspeeding a max speed Jolteon. If he turns out to be Quick Feet and I end up getting him status, I will definitely pivot around that and play around that carefully, as that is something I could expect to happen in this game, especially with one of my next mons on the team having Toxic Spikes. So yeah. Anyways, Landorus Therian, like I said, Earthquake spam is just incredibly good against the team. U-turn for momentum. I actually want to U-turn if it's Landorus against Klefki in like turn 1 scenario or something, which I don't think that'll be a scenario, but I actually want to put myself in a position where I just click U-turn, as I think he'll probably go for Magnarize, and then I can bring in something like my Arcanine to definitely abuse that thing. But yeah, then we have Defog on here as pretty much an option to get rid of like spikes if Klefki's spikes become an issue, for something like Arcanine wanting to switch into Weavile later on, or Rhyperior switching into Jolteon or something like that. But otherwise, this Landorus is pretty self-explanatory. Just outspeeds everything on his team with the Scarf. Ice Shard from Weavile is definitely something I gotta play around, as well as other potential Scarfers. So yeah, that is the idea behind that. And next mon we have is my Greninja right here. Nicknames are kind of just scrambled all over the place. There's no real theme with them, but yeah, this is Lucio, of course. But rocking the Life Orb, Dark Pulse, Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, and Toxic Spikes. If you look at his team, he's got obviously he's got different pivots and whatnot, but he has one mon that can kind of switch in, which is Virizion. Aside from that, I guess a Spadef, Miltank, or Klefki essentially can take a couple of hits. But Toxic Spikes, if you look at his team, everything is grounded on his team. He does have a grounded Poison and Nihilego, which I do expect to come to this game, but I do have a strategy where I feel like I can get a T-Spike up and still poison the things I need to poison. So the idea behind this Greninja is I expect him to bring Cofagrigus, like I said. If I can get a Toxic Spike up on that thing while it's in, I do expect him to 100% switch out, because I don't think he'll have anything to hit my Greninja very nicely, and obviously he wouldn't want to take a Dark Pulse, especially a Life Orb boosted one. So something like the Virizion coming in would definitely make a lot of sense. If I get my T-Spike up on the Virizion coming in, I can then pivot out into my next one being my Arcanine, which is a very, very easy switch in for that thing indeed. And really his best switch-ins to Arcanine are things like the Slowking, which I would absolutely appreciate getting poisoned. If he goes into Nihilego on my Arcanine to absorb that T-Spike, I really have no reason not to click Bulldoze, as even if he goes Slowking, it's not going to do much damage, but he still was forced to go Slowking and he gets Toxic from the T-Spike. And the other option would be potentially Garchomp if he does decide to bring that, and I could click either, you're going to see on my Arcanine I have Burn Up. I could click Burn Up expecting the Garchomp to come out, and then proceed to click Will-O-Wisp and burn that thing. If I have my Typeless, if I'm Typeless, obviously, I'm not too worried about getting hit by a super effective attack, and I am very, very physically defensive. So going for a Burn Up into a Will-O-Wisp on a Garchomp switch would also be very, very nice for me. I guess I wouldn't actually burn it if the T-Spike's up, but that is a scenario where if Garchomp switched in on my Arcanine, I could click Burn Up into Will-O-Wisp if the T-Spike isn't up or something like that. But the EV's investment on this Arcanine are 44 in speed to just outspeed non-speed Miltank, so I can maybe burn that before it wants to attack me or whatnot. 52 investment in attack means that Burn Up into Bulldoze always kills Nihilego, if he's non just max HP or whatnot, which I don't really see being a necessary bring here. And then the rest is basically thrown into HP and defense, being a very, very nice pivot into Weavile, like I said, or a switch into Weavile essentially. A very nice pivot into things like Virizion, even if it's special, that's a very good switch into it. Things like the Entei can pivot into that for sure, because that thing is definitely scary. And then things like Miltank, like I said, I can burn for sure. And Gallade as well, I can burn Gallade. So yeah, that's the Arcanine right here. I think it's a pretty solid bring. Next here we have our second Choice Scarf on the team, Landorus Therian, and now Gardevoir. Gardevoir with Choice Scarf with Moonblast, Psyshock, Hidden Power Ground, and Healing Wish. We are rocking enough speed on this Gardevoir. Actually, our Gardevoir and Landorus aren't running the same speed. Our Landorus Therian is actually running a Choice Scarf variant with enough speed to outspeed max speed Jolteon, and I can get away with doing that still with Adamant. Whereas with Gardevoir, if I want to run Modest, I have to creep his Jolteon, creeping my Greninja. So that is the idea with that. So my Gardevoir may not 100% outspeed Jolteon if he decides just to run max speed Jolteon, but more than likely he will do the creep with Greninja. And like I said, with Landorus, there was really no reason to creep down considering I can already get away with Adamant. But for Gardevoir's sake, I wanted Modest because the difference between Modest and Timid is actually really big this game. If I'm not able to get rid of Hazard, or if I'm not able to get up Hazards, I should say, Moonblast can actually still Oko Garchomp and Mega Gallade from full with the Modest. If I think it does like 106 min, so they'd have to have a ton of bulk just to live that, or just like a Kevia Berry Resist from Garchomp or something along the lines of that. So that's kind of the ideal with Gardevoir. Psyshock's really nice because of the Nihilego, which is definitely something that could pivot into this. He has a couple of Moonblast switch-ins. He has the Klefki, Nihilego, and Entei. Otherwise, everything is taking neutral damage. And if it's something like the Slowking switching in, like I said, if I can have a Toxic Spike up, then I'm okay with clicking Moonblast on that coming in. But otherwise, like I said, Moonblast switch-ins are these three mons right here. Klefki, over time getting worn down with no recovery. Nihilego has to always worry about Psyshock, and then Entei, which I really don't expect to come to this game. I think it has a horrible matchup, and if he does bring it, then I will definitely have the right switch-ins for that mon for sure. But yeah, that's basically the Gardevoir set. Healing Wish is a last-ditch effort move in case I want to Healing Wish up something like my Archon and help to take on his physically offensive mons at the end of the game. Potentially Healing Wish a Landorus Therian up to spam Earthquake at the end of the game and not have to worry about taking like a Hidden Power Ice and Oko me or something. And maybe even Healing Wish my next mon up, which I'll talk about here in a second. And also Hidden Power Ground is kind of nice because those three switches to Moonblast, like I told you about, all don't take Hidden Power Ground too well. So if I'm able to lock myself into that at the end of the game or something along the lines of that, then that would be very good for me. But yeah, getting into my next mon, we have my Rhyperior right here, which is rocking the Rindo Berry with Earthquake, Toxic, Stealth Rock, and Ice Punch. Very Spadef overall. I believe the 16 attack investment means that I always knock out a offensive Garchomp after rocks with Ice Punch, which is really nice. And I can definitely take a hit from a Garchomp unless it's like Z Earthquake, because of my solid rock and being able to help me live those hits a lot easier, which is really good. But overall, this is my main Nihilego and Jolteon answer. As for Jolteon, I can live 2 Hidden Power Grasses with the Rindo Berry, which is great. I've used Hidden Power Ice. I believe I can even live 3 of those, which is awesome. And then obviously can't do too much otherwise. Nihilego, if it wants to pack the Grass Knot, which is the best way it can hit me, I believe I take about half from a Grass Knot, so I can take that and proceed to Earthquake. And if he doesn't have the Virizion on the back, like I said, I can mainly just spam Earthquake against his team because he has no resistances. So Rhyperior is looking really solid in this game, and it is going to be my rocker for this game, meaning that Landorus doesn't have to be forced to run it, which is very good. And then yeah, melee, like I said, pretty self-explanatory, very special defensive. I guess it could take hits from like what else? I mean, it can take a hit from a Slowking if I'm not able to get a Toxic Spike up, and I really need to Toxic that Slowking. It can take 1 hit from the Slowking and then proceed to Toxic it, which is very good. So that's the idea behind the Rhyperior. Very good rocker, Nihilego, and Jolteon check. Main job. Then last but not least, we have my Colbur Berry Slowbro, which is basically just max defense right here. We are running 4 in speed, which is basically just to outspeed his Slowking. That really won't come into effect, like I think, at all. But I decided to do that just in case I was in a scenario where I was really weakened. He brings in Slowking, thinking he could just revenge, and I outspeed and get a slack off. Something really cheesy like that, but I felt like it was just, I didn't really need the 4 anywhere else, so I decided to just throw it in speed. But anyways, we're rocking Scald, Psyshock, Slack Off, and Counter. This mon's extremely good against him. I actually surprisingly thought about not bringing this at first and bringing Kartana instead, but looking at it, I felt just a little bit too weak to Mega Gallade, even though I wasn't 100% sold that it would come to this game. The fact that it can easily take a +2 knockoff from Mega Gallade is just really good for me, and it can also take a +2 X Scissor, barely I believe, but it does take one. And I do expect knockoff over X Scissor in case I bring something along the lines of Golbat, so he's able to get rid of the Eviolite. And that's just the option there. Also, this can easily take a hit from the Weavile. This won't be on my initial, like, obviously answer to Weavile. If it's still early in the game and I have a full health Arcanine with like no hazards up on my side, then I will definitely just go into that so I don't have to reveal counter. But if it's later in the game and he's in a position where Weavile can just start clicking knockoff very easily without going for like swords dances and whatnot, then I can just click counter on it, you know, which is great because I believe I only take like 25% from a I take about 30% from a banded Weavile's knockoff with my Colbur Berry, which is like nothing. So, and I can proceed to counter and do a crap ton back, or just knock it out. So that's the idea behind that. main Mega Gallade switch in, also just give me a really good Entei switch in if he does decide to bring it, which I don't think he will. And it can also take hits from physically offensive Virizion, which is pretty sick. And there's also Guard Jump too. I decided against Ice Beam just because I thought this moveset was a little bit better. Psyshock being able to rock the Nihilego and hit the Virizion very hard. Also, I believe it was for Mega Gallade. If I didn't feel like I had to click counter, Psyshock I believe does like 60%, so it's really good damage. But nonetheless, guys, that is my team. I'm going to go ahead and get ready to hop into the battle, and I'll be right back. We are back, guys, and as you guys can see, Orosco decided to bring the Slowking, Weavile, Klefki, Jolteon, Nihilego, and Virizion. So overall, if I did say I was like predicting anything, I guess I predicted 5 of them right. Mainly not expecting Jolteon as much, but I do see why he brought it. It's a very good speed tier against my team. It can definitely put in some work in the late game. But no Configurius right here, which is good for him because I didn't decide to bring Megalopony. As I'm looking at his team, he looks a little bit under prep for Megalopony, so I'm very surprised not to see it. So I'm definitely expecting some kind of tech in here for the Megalopony, potentially a Scarfer. Throughout the list, maybe Nihilego, Virizion, or something like that. And then Slowking is most likely going to be his Megalopony check in this game, you know, because he needs something. He needs something along the lines. He could have Reflect support from Klefki, something along that line. But as you can see, Landorus is going to go ham like I thought it would. Slowking can definitely pivot in, but it's not the greatest switch in, and then Virizion can definitely pivot in, but if I get U-turn momentum, it is going to be a long game for him in that aspect. But anyways, looking at lead matchup, I didn't really have a great lead in my opinion. I didn't really come in thinking I was leading one thing specific, but I thought my Rhyperior led up pretty nicely against I would say 4 out of the 6 mons, being the only 2 I didn't like his matchup against was the Slowking and the Virizion. So I decided to lead off with my Rhyperior. As you see, he decides to lead off with the Klefki. Right here, I went right for my Stealth Rocks, thinking he would just go right for Magnet Rise, thinking it was pretty obvious. But he's just going to go right for Toxic, which is fine as well, as I'm able to get my Rocks up, which is great for me. Also, we'll be able to figure out if he is Defog. Now right here, expecting the Magnet Rise, I am just going to pull the switch into my Arcanine, thinking he definitely will still have the Magnet Rise, as he is going to go for that right now. And I believe I just make the safe play and go right for Burn Up. Oh, no. I actually pulled a double into Greninja right here, expecting a Slowking to come in on my Arcanine. But he is going to stay in and just click Toxic on my Arcanine, which I thought was a little bit confusing. I'm going to make the double right back into my Arcanine just because it gives me the best matchup against this thing. And he's just going to click Play Rough and do absolutely nothing. But yeah, basically I made that double with Greninja against the Slowking. I'll go back real quick. I made that double into Greninja right here. Because if he goes Slowking, I really don't switch into Slowking well on my team at all, and I really need that T-Spike up like fast. If I'm able to get that Slowking Poison, then that is great for helping things like my Slowbro stall it out, something like my Landorus just wear it down over time easier with U-turns, and as well as my Greninja being able to just click Dark Pulse against it in general. So I really want that T-Spike up, but he's going to stay to make the Toxic play, and not wanting my Greninja to get hit by anything here or paralyzed, well, it can't paralyze me, but get hit by a Play Rough right here, I'm going to double back into my Arcanine. To take this Play Rough and then fire back. I believe I go for Burn Up this turn, and he makes a pretty good play right here. It's pretty obvious, but he makes a good play. He goes into Slowking as I just click Burn Up this turn, and yeah, Slowking is going to eat that up. So it's good to know that this is going to be his primary switch into Arcanine, even though he went for it the second time around. I'm going to make the hard switch into my Greninja right here as he makes a nice play and clicks Grass Knot. It could potentially two-shot me right here, but I am just going to go right for the Dark Pulse. Probably a misplay on my part looking back at it. I really wish I got the T-Spike up there. I knew Virizion could definitely come in, and I was okay with clicking Dark Pulse because I had an easy switch in Arcanine. But clicking the T-Spike was better overall because I do have a chance to die to the next Grass Knot from Slowking if he stays in, but I overall get the T-Spike up, and if I'm able to keep the Nihilego from coming in on my Greninja T-Spike by using things like my Landorus Therian, Rhyperior, and Arcanine effectively, because my Arcanine does have Bulldoze, I can keep that thing out the field, and then if it does want to come in on the T-Spike, it is definitely going to pay. But either way, he does bring the Virizion in on my Dark Pulse, and then that is going to force me to make the play into my Arcanine here as he gets the Justified Boost, which isn't really a huge deal, because I am just going to Intimidate him back down, and his Close Combat right here, as you're going to see, is going to do not very much at all. But yeah, I think I just play it safe right here and click Burn Up again. Pretty mediocre play, honestly. Like, I should have kept going for this hard double into my Greninja against the Slowking, because you're seeing it's kind of becoming a recurring theme. Right here, I don't have a good switch into the Slowking. My Gardevoir is not going. My Gardevoir over time doesn't want to be a switch into this thing. I don't know yet if he has recovery or whatnot, so I don't really want to try 1v1ing this with Gardevoir. It would be like a if he's AV, it would be like a 4-shot from here anyways. So it's definitely not something I'm capable of doing at this point in the game. Rhyperior and Landers don't want to switch into Scalds. My Slowbro can't do anything to this thing unless it's toxic, and then my Arcanine cannot really do anything to it unless it's toxic. So I really need this T-Spike up is what I'm trying to say. As he's going to go for Scald here, and I am going to get this T-Spike up finally as he stays in this time, I guess catching me with a bluff, but at the same time I'm definitely okay with getting that T-Spike up. And now the only thing I have to watch out for is letting that Nihilego come in, which is why I'm going to go into Landers right here. He has to watch out for the potential Z move right here, which I'm thinking is why he'll probably switch out, but I'm just going to go for the U-turn as it gets big damage off on the Slowking if he decides to stay in, and overall it will put it in Gardevoir's range of Moonblast. And if he's not fully physically defensive. But he goes into Virizion right here, which I guess is fair, expecting maybe Ground EM or just an Earthquake in general, as I'm able to get some momentum right there with my U-turn and bring in my Arcanine. And right here, I believe I clicked for the Bulldoze right away. Because if he decides to go Nihilego to try to soak up that T-Spike instead of Slowking here, not wanting to let the Slowking get poisoned, then his Nihilego is just going to drop. So with the rocks up, it'll definitely just drop. So that was the idea behind this play, as I believe I clicked Bulldoze here first. Yeah, I click Bulldoze as he stays in, clicks the Focus Blast, gets a special defense drop, which is going to matter here. You're going to see in a second. Yeah, I click Bulldoze. Obviously, I overpredicted, but it is what it is. I just realized something. Yeah, I don't know why I just realized this. Yeah, I actually just realized this, but I got a speed drop on the Bulldoze, and I'm actually going to make a double right here into my Landorus, which was... After realizing that speed drop, there's no reason for me to make that play. I should have just clicked Morning Sun right here, because he is actually going to make a great play on this next turn right here and click the Hidden Power Ice, predicting my Landorus to come in. But with that speed drop, there was no reason for me to do that. Holy crap, I'm so mad at myself now. But yeah, basically let Landorus take 66% right there for free, which is bad. And I'm going to be able to pick up the Virizion, but not the price for all this damage. So really good play on his part, bad play on my part, not realizing that during the game. But right here, I'm going to click U-turn and go right into my Rhyperior, try to prevent this Nihilego from coming in, and potentially get a T-Spike, the Toxic off on something else. So he brings in Klefki right here, which I thought was pretty interesting. He could go straight for the Magnarize, yes, I've already seen it, so I didn't know if he'd go right for it again. I thought something like Defog might make sense. Basically, if he predicted me to go Arcanine and he clicks Defog, he gets a lot of momentum off of that turn. So me expecting him to click Defog, I'm just going to click Earthquake right here. As he clicks Magnarize, which I guess is fair. And yeah, my Earthquake obviously isn't going to hit him. And I believe even after this toxic damage, for max special attack, modest Slowking, it's still a roll for me to potentially live, which is good, because if I'm not able to get that T-Spike off on the Slowking, I need a secondary way of hitting that thing with toxic. So my Rhyperior does have a saving grace there if I can keep it around. But I am going to go make the switch into my Arcanine now. I definitely need to try to get a Morning Sun off at some point in this game, as he is going to pull the Toxic off, which isn't a huge deal or anything, because he doesn't have Hazards up or anything yet, so I'm not too trouble with that. But he is going to go into Slowking right here. After seeing that, I am so relieved, because this thing is on the timer now, and my Slowbro and things like my Arcanine with Burn Up can definitely put in some work against this Mon. So definitely happy about that turn. As I'm going to make the switch into my Slowbro right here. As he makes another nice play and goes for Grass Knot. He's making some really good predictions this game. I told him that after the game. He made some very, very smart predictions. I mean, I guess I wouldn't say smart. I mean, they were smart, obviously, but made some very nice plays, and I guess was in my head a lot of the game, so good on him. I'm just going to click Slack Off right here. Potentially a risk in case he got a crit, but like I said, I have that 4 in speed investment, which actually probably helped me here, if anything. Because I'm able to get my Slack off before him, unless he had speed on his Slowking, which I don't think he did. But I thought I felt pretty safe clicking it right there. As he's going to go into Jolteon, and he gets poisoned. Him getting poisoned right here, I have to keep in mind that he is most definitely Quick Feet. Like I said during the team motor, he has no reason to be Volt Absorb. So he probably outspeeds my Rhyperior and my Gardevoir, or not Rhyperior, but my Landorus Therian and my Gardevoir now. So that's something I'm definitely going to have to watch out for. But after getting the Slack off, I am just going to switch to my Rhyperior. My Rhyperior clicking Toxic on Slowking obviously isn't as big of a deal now, because it is toxic or poisoned. So I'm okay with taking the damage right here from Jolteon, as he's going to get a special defensive drop. He can't knock me out with the next attack. But I do expect Slowking or something to come in right here on the next attack. So I'm actually going to make a double here. I think I make a double into Gardevoir, as he actually goes into Nihilego right here, and he's on an Air Balloon. And here's why Air Balloon is so cool. For me anyways, it helped me out. It's a very good tech on his part, obviously, because it's immune to my 2 ground immunities. As you're going to see, I make the switch into my Gardevoir, which actually works out for me here. But the reason that that Air Balloon is really cool is He never made that play in Nihilego to absorb my T-Spike earlier on, which I was kind of surprised about, but this is why. If he's on an air balloon, he can't soak up the T-Spike, which actually turned out to help me a lot this game. And basically, him being on an air balloon saved my T-Spike for pretty much the game in helping the Slowking get poisoned, which was the main one, obviously. Wearing down Jolteon over time, which was great. So yeah, shout out to air balloon Nihilego. But yeah, Gardevoir's going to come out here. I'm going to trace his Beast Boost first off, which is really cool. And I'm just going to click Psyshock right here. I know he has a Clef Key, but I'm just going to click Psyshock. I've been playing pretty predictable this whole game, making a few like doubles and whatnot, but I have hazards up and whatnot. I think I have the momentum at this point. There's no reason for me to over predict too much, I think. So I'm just going to keep playing straight up. Goes into Clef Key. I'm going to make the switch into my Arcanine to get a Morning Sun up again. This thing's already shown that it can't do much to me. He just plays Toxic again, which I felt like lost him a lot of momentum right there. I thought that him making a double or something along the lines right there could have helped him a lot. But I'm going to be able to click Morning Sun nonetheless right here. Put myself in a very solid position with my Arcanine. As he's going to go into Slowking right here. Now, once again, I said I don't switch well into the Slowking, so I am actually just going to click Burn Up right here and proceed to try to chip this thing down with Toxic over time. So I think that's definitely my best play at this point in the game. I don't have Greninja as a pivot. I can't obviously check it with Dark Pulse, and nothing else on my team really wants to come in on a Scald. I could go into Slowbro right here. The reason I kept Slowbro at full, I believe, was because I saw the Jolteon Shadow Ball damage from earlier onto my Rhyperior, and it did, I believe it was modest damage, but it was like modest max special attack, but no item from what I saw. So he still could be like Magnet or something, electric like boosting items to help hit Slowbro or whatever. But if he's no item boost and just modest, he has a very, very low chance to kill my Slowbro from full. So I decided to keep my Slowbro at full to help with that Jolteon in a way. Because if he is Quick Feet, he is going to outspeed my Landorus. And my Rhyperior is really weak at this point, so I'm trying to keep as many checks to that thing as possible in the late game. So this is why I'm proceeding to do this with Arcanine. And I'm not too worried about the Weavile either, because as long as I keep my Arcanine alive with the Intimidate support, then my Slowbro's Cobra Berry in the back will definitely keep me safe for Weavile. So I'm just going to proceed to Morning Sun up, as he is going to stay in and keep clicking Scald. And right here, I actually make a switch in my Gardevoir. The main reason I go into my Gardevoir here, I'm trying to remember why. Yeah, the main reason I go into my Gardevoir is because I didn't want the Nihilego coming in onto my Arcanine next, which ultimately could be a pretty annoying thing if he gets a Beast Boost up, which is like, if he gets like a Speed Beast Boost and he's actually not like choiced or anything, that definitely could be a problem for my team, as I believe if I make the switch into my Gardevoir right here, as the Slowking can't do anything to me at this point. I trace the Regenerator, which is cool, first off, but he's actually going to make the double into the Nihilego, which was what I was worried about if the Nihilego was in against my Garchomp, or not my, what am I saying, in against my Arcanine, and it was able to get a Beast Boost off on it, and potentially get like a Speed Boost or something. That would definitely be troublesome, but I am going to bring this in. Just click Psyshock again, he's actually going to sack this, but he knows I'm Choice Scarfed at this point. He's going to freely be able to bring in the Weavile, which puts me in a very interesting position. I believe I thought about this next turn for a while right here, as I could go into my Landorus to get the Intimidate off. I would take a knockoff and essentially die. I could sack my Landorus to get Intimidate off to bring in my Arcanine, but the reason I didn't want to sack my Landorus off is because it was one of my better ways to hit the Slowking for big damage, as well as if he's not Quick Feed Jolteon, it gives me a safe way to go in and revenge that thing, which is also very good. I don't go hard into Arcanine because I felt like Clef Key was actually a pretty big threat at this point. I didn't want to sack my Arcanine at this point, because with the Magnet-Rise Clef Key, he potentially could not necessarily 1v1 my Landorus. I guess it wouldn't actually probably 1v1 Landorus plus Rhyperior if you get the Magnet-Rise up. Toxic on both of those and whatnot, so that would definitely be pretty rough. As well as my Gardevoir can't do too much to it. So I definitely wanted to save Arcanine, so I actually decided to make the play into my Rhyperior right here, which is ultimately going to make me weaker to the Jolteon. So I did think about healing Wishing my Rhyperior up at some point with my Gardevoir, but I'm actually going to decide to let it go down right here, as he is taking more damage over time, which is great. And I believe I go into Arcanine right here because my Arcanine can take any one hit from this Weavile now. No, I go into Gardevoir first. I'm thinking in turns ahead. I go into Gardevoir here, thinking I could just stay in and click Moonblast, as he is going to switch out into Clef Key, take the rocks, and after the rocks, you're going to see that Moonblast is going to be a nice, comfortable 2-hit KO. I guess if I got a really bad roll right here, it would knock him out, but he's actually going to reveal the Thunder Wave, which is something that didn't really cross my mind, which is definitely something I should have considered more. He revealed Toxic, Player Rough, and Magnet Rise at this point. I thought last move would be... I didn't think Defog at this point because I thought he would have defogged a long time ago. But I just, for some reason, didn't let Thunder Wave cross my mind again, which was definitely not a very good play on my part. But you're going to see that the Thunder Wave actually comes into play here in a little bit, which is going to be very interesting. Right here, I'm going to click Moonblast to knock him out again. And he is going to go into his Weavile right here. Yeah, he's going to go into Weavile right here as I'm going to switch out. I can take a hit from this thing. Seeing the damage from earlier, I know this isn't a boosting item and attack. So I can take a hit from this and potentially knock it out with the Moonblast the following turn. But the reason I don't want to do that is because of the Jolteon. If I get weakened to the point where I am at a very low percentage, the Jolteon can revenge. With its quick feet, it still outspeeds Landorus, like I said, so Hidden Power Ice would knock that out. And then Thunderbolt can get a roll on Slowbro and potentially knock me out. And then Arcanine is very low to the point where Jolteon can literally just click attacks and then sweep my team. So I don't want to let Gardevoir take that hit. So I'm going to make the play into my Arcanine, get the Intimidate off, and just sack it off to the Weavile, essentially. Klefki's gone, so like I said, my Arcanine is not necessary as much anymore to help beat that thing in the late game. So overall, this Weavile is actually going to live at 1%, which is kind of annoying for my team right here. But I am going to make the play into my Slowbro. Yeah, I'm going to make the play into my Slowbro right here because I didn't want to bring Gardevoir in, obviously, like I said, for the reasons earlier around Jolteon. But I'm going to go into Slowbro right here, and I'm just going to click Slack Off, as he's Knockoffs is a pretty obvious play right there, and I'm just going to get back up to full. Because like I said, at full 100%, I have a very good chance to take a modest Thunderbolt from non-boosting item Jolteon, and I can proceed to Psyshock and knock that thing out. So that's the play he's going to go for right here. And you're going to see he goes right for the Thunderbolt, and he's actually going to knock me out. So I asked him after the game if he was like a boosting item, like Magnet or whatnot, but he told me it was Flame Orb, which obviously you're going to see that means he's Quick Feet at this point. And that I get the T-Spike up, he's poisoned, he's going to be outspeeding my Lando, which is definitely a problem. But yeah, he's going to knock me out right there, which was very bad for me. But one thing I think that he kind of forgot or crossed his mind was, I'm going to bring back in Trace Gardevoir right here. I'm going to Trace the Quick Feet, which is really strange because I'm paralyzed, but I'm still going to outspeed him with my Quick Feet right here. Because being paralyzed doesn't actually affect when you have Quick Feet, and I just traced that. So Gardevoir's going to be able to come in and just Moonblast through the rest of his team right here. Actually, Slowking is going to live, but the T-Spike ends up taking him out. And yeah, that was a really cool tech at the end. I mean, I didn't obviously prepare for that exact scenario or anything, but Gardevoir tracing the Quick Feet from Jolteon definitely came into play. And yeah, it definitely helped out. Even if Slowking was able to get rid of my Gardevoir there at the end, I still had Landorus to click EQ in the back. So it was a very, very tense endgame for sure. Great game to Orosco. I thought he played very solidly. I thought his matchup against my double ground core was pretty bad, so I do give him props for prepping pretty nicely around that. Obviously not getting rid of that T-Spike definitely hurt him throughout the game, because if I wasn't able to put that Slowking on a timer, that thing potentially could have just beat my team. As well as Jolteon was definitely rough to deal with towards the end, so I felt like I didn't give that thing enough respect during the prep, but nonetheless we were able to pull it out 2-0. And yeah, guys, that was basically it. If you guys have any thoughts on the match, be sure to leave them down below in the comment section. I'm going to be uploading the full season for Krash Season 2 here. And yeah, that's it for me, guys. I'll talk to you later. Peace.